Sorry. All right, so I forgot to hit record. So for those of you that are watching this, we're just talking about preparing for an interview. We watched a little video that was like 4 minutes, so you can look that up on YouTube, the do's and don'ts of interviewing. So we're talking about researching the company, having some notes, formulating questions, and then making sure that you get there in plenty of time. So, all right, so the interview starts literally when you are in the parking lot. So take some time to, that you're prepared, you don't have anybody with you, you've got your notes, you want to check your makeup girls, or you make sure your hair's good. Make sure that you are dressed to impress for sure. So that's another thing. The night before, lay out your outfit the night before. Again, if you wait till the morning rolls around, what if the blouse you were going to wear or the slacks that you had, they're in the laundry? Or, oh no, your roommate borrowed them, or, maybe you've grown and you don't fit into it anymore, or you shrunk and they're too big for you. So make sure anything that you can do the day before to help make that morning go as smoothly as possible is what you need to do. So lay out your outfit the day before. Ladies, be careful. Don't wear a whole lot of crazy makeup. Don't do the big 80s hair or anything like that. And then no perfume or cologne. I think we talked about this in a previous time that we met. Somebody could have allergies. You never know. You could be a little heavy-handed with your spray because you're just like a little nervous or something like that. So just err on the side of caution. And I just say no perfume, no cologne, no body spray at all when you're going into these things. Your outfit should be professional. Ladies, nothing low cut or anything that's short that's going to, distract from your professionalism. Gentlemen, you should wear a tie and a suit coat, button-down shirt. Your shirt should be tucked in with a nice belt, slacks, some nice shoes. No khakis, no jeans, no tennis shoes. God, no Crocs or slides or anything crazy like that. I know it's Florida, but please don't wear your socks and your slides to a job interview or anything like that. So you should dress definitely professionally. We did talk about that when we did networking. I know that we went over that kind of presentation of dressing up versus business casual versus business professional. So you want to dress business professional. When you get into the building, be nice to everybody. You never know who people are. So if you're going to like a great big company, maybe it's like Raymond James or, Jabil or something like that, you're going to go in, there's going to probably be a check-in, there's a receptionist or something. You don't know if that person is potentially the CEO just filling in for the receptionist, maybe it's a lunch or maybe the person is sick, so never treat anybody less than how you feel like you're going to treat the person who's interviewing you. That's just good life advice anyway. So just be kind. In the whole world where you can be anything, be kind. Smile, a good firm handshake. We talked about kind of cold fishing, that weird, like your hands like, don't do that. You're not trying to like break their bones either, but a solid, firm handshake. Eye contact is important. Smiling, your posture, all of that is super, super important. And if you're nervous, just take a couple deep breaths. That will literally slow down your breathing and it will slow down your heart rate and you will feel more calm and centered. They may tell you, yes, go on down this hallway, or they may say, have a seat, they'll be with you in a minute, for whatever the situation is. If you have to wait for the person to come get you or for you to be escorted to the office where you're going to meet with this person, here's a great time for you to be sitting up. Do not play on your phone. Even if your notes are on your phone, don't do it. It just looks very disengaging. You want to have good posture. You want to be up, smiling. Just take it all in. Just take it all in. See if there's anything that you can comment on, like, oh, that's a really cool painting, or wow, that's a really cool barn door or whatever, so and just be smiling at people. It just shows that you're engaged and that you're interested in being in there versus just like, oh, I don't want to be here. I'm scared. I'm nervous. Or, your body language says more than your words ever will. Remember it's this 55, 38, 7 rule, something like that. But whereas the words that you say are only like 7% of what people hear, then like 30 something percent is your tone, but 50% of what people hear is your body language, is your non-verbals, so when you're shaking your head, that active listening, when you're kind of leaning in, showing interest, when you're smiling, if you're sitting around like this, and maybe this is comfortable, or maybe you're cold, but it just screams, I'm uninterested. I'm closed off. I don't want to be here. I'm uncomfortable. So just open yourself up. That says so much more. Don't fidget. Girls, if you have a tendency to fidget, with your hair or whatever, just put it back so that you just kind of, distract yourself from, not having that there. The leg shaking. I'm a leg shaker. I do it. I have a lot of energy and I find myself shaking my leg. I have to stop myself and just like calm down, or tap in pens or something like that. Just be very aware of your nonverbals. So when they take you back to meet with the person, again, you have one chance to make a first impression. You never get that second chance back to make a first impression. So you should feel good in your outfit. You should feel good in your own skin. You're confident, you've prepared, you know that you are meant to be here. You are the best candidate for the job. All of this positive self-talk will come through when you're able to answer these interview questions. So you want to be able to answer them. Now, they talked about the video that your question should be like 1 to 2 minutes. That is a really good rule of thumb. I usually tell people try to keep it under around 60 seconds whenever they ask you. But of course, if it is a little bit more in-depth question, you don't want to like just start speeding up your speech or leaving out important detail. But you also don't want to give like all of this background and just kind of bore them with this minutia of detail. Give them the opportunity to ask you follow-up questions. So the number one first question, what are they typically going to ask you? The very first question once the interview gets started.
Tell me about yourself.
Excellent. Tell me about yourself. Hey, Liam, tell me about yourself. Now, this is a very pivotal interview question. This is not, well, I grew up in the Midwest. I didn't really have a whole lot of friends. So I played with these cows and, I, built forts in the woods and then I moved around a lot. No, this is my story. But no, that is not relevant to why I'm sitting in front of you, why I'm in this job interview. So the tell me about yourself question, sometimes people think it's just an icebreaker, it's just that, that chit chat, that small talk stuff. No, this is a great opportunity to dive into, first of all, why are you here? And what brought you here? So let's go with accounting. So if you are interviewing for an accounting position, what got you first interested in wanting to be in accounting? So that's where you start with the tell me about yourself question. So it could be like, well, I grew up in a small town and, I was exposed, second grade, we used to do these math games and I realized that I was always winning and I loved numbers. And so I started taking some advanced level courses, and then I went to Florida Southern and I started majoring in accounting. And then, I got exposed to all these different companies, blah, 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 right? So it is where your passion for what you're doing, how it got started, what did you do to cultivate it, and how did it bring you to where you are now? That is the real crux of the tell me about yourself question. Not all of this irrelevant detail. Well, I went to school here and I did this, and these are my hobbies, and I lived here, and I've got these many siblings and these little niblets, which nieces and nephews, put them together, they're called niblets. Just found that out. I think it's adorable. And I have nieces and nephews, so I call my little niblets. All right. So when they ask you these interview questions, and there's like some top interview questions that they tend to ask you, like, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? Why should we hire you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? There's about 10, and I go over this in my professional development class and kind of break them down. Like, this is how you could construct your answers. So if you follow the rule of thumb, keep it around a minute, no more than 2. You don't want to overdo it with detail, but you don't want to just give one word answers, either. So it's got to be rich enough that they have a good understanding, but short enough too, where they can go, oh, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. Or, hey, could you elaborate a little bit more on that? So be prepared for those, because any kind of follow-up questions are fair game. What are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest weaknesses? Those you can definitely be guaranteed to be asked as well. Now, when you're interviewing though, whatever questions they're asking you, make sure that your answer is always tying it back to the job that you are applying for. So when they do the what do you consider your greatest strengths question, you should know, because you've done your research and you've scoured that job description and you've researched the company, what are some of the skills that they say are required for this job? So maybe in the job description, it said that you have to have superior interpersonal communication skills, verbal communication skills. You have to have presentation skills, so something like that, right? So I would pick one or two of those things, and I always have more answers than I could possibly give because I always want them in the proverbial back pocket in case they ask a follow-up question, or they might say, oh, that's very interesting. Well, what else would you consider one of your strengths? And you never want to just sit there and be like, oh, well, I wasn't prepared for that, right? So over prepare. So if the job description talking about interpersonal skills, right? And they say, what are your greatest strengths? I would say, well, I consider my interpersonal skills to be one of my greatest strengths. And they're going to be like, oh, we need that for somebody in this job, right? So if you can always tie it back to the job description and be ready and prepared to give some follow-up. That, oh, well, tell me about that. Or when did you demonstrate interpersonal skills? Or why do you think that's important? Be able to talk about it, but you want to give them the opportunity to ask the follow-up questions versus you just like unloading, like verbal vomiting all over them with all this information about you. Let them ask questions. Now, when they do the weakness question, that one's just stupid. Like somebody wrote it in a book somewhere. It literally does nothing to help them make a decision whether or not they're going to hire you. But if they do happen to ask you, just be careful that you don't actually start talking about a weakness that's pivotal to the job, right? So if they're like, what do you consider your greatest weakness? And you're like, hell, I can't ever get anywhere on time, or I hate people. It's too people-y out there, and you're like, oh, you're going for a customer service position and you hate people? That's probably not the best idea, So what you want to do is that you can do this one in one of two ways. You can just pick something that used to be an issue for you. Maybe it was time management, but you want to spin it in a way that you've fixed it, right? You could say, well, I used to struggle with time management, but actually I dropped the ball last term and I missed a couple deadlines and I had to really scramble to get my grade back up. And that was just a horrible feeling. So now I set 3 and 4 alarms and I haven't missed a deadline since then, right? So it's a weakness, but you fixed it. Or you can pick something that is not a weakness at all, but the way that you say it, you're trying to make it sound like a weakness. So you guys are welcome to use this. I do this with every single job I've ever interviewed with, and they ask me this stupid question. I make it look like I'm thinking first. I go, oof, like I didn't know they were going to ask me, right? And I'm like, well, I guess I would say that my greatest weakness is that I tend to hold people up to the same high expectations that I hold myself up to. And I can sometimes get a little frustrated with my team. That is not a weakness at all. That's saying I have high expectations. I have high standards. So, but I make it kind of sound like a weakness. But then 100% of the time, they're going to go, oh, and then they're going to move on to the next question because it's a stupid question. But for some reason, they still ask it. Anyway, it's just dumb. So be prepared, be confident in your answers. You can take a minute to think about it, but you don't want to wait too long. But if you're really having a moment like, oh, you just kind of get your water. Oh, okay. They're not going to rush you if you're taking a sip of water, but that buys you a couple extra seconds. Kind of look up there, ooh, like you're thinking, but you've prepared. So you already know what you're going to say, just as long as it doesn't come across as scripted. So you give them your answer and then you're going to move on, but always be prepared for the follow-up questions. Now, while you're in the interview, especially if you are in their office, which would be prime, because they're going to have personal stuff, right? So you guys are in my office right now. And I just unplugged here. Okay. So, oh, I think I have my background, but anyway, if my background wasn't blurred, then you'd be able to see that's my travel wall. And then over here's my bookshelf, and I've got pictures of my children, and I've got some weird stuffed animal stuff. I don't know why. I've got my cool chess set over there. Anyway, there are lots of things that you could make a connection to in my office if you were interviewing here with me in here. And so try to find something that you could, where'd I go? That you could make some kind of like comment about. Maybe it's chess, maybe, the picture that you couldn't see, my son is an Eagle Scout, and I've got that nice big, thing framed with him as an Eagle Scout. I had this weird aversion to birds, but I like penguins. So I've got these like stuffed penguins on my shelf, something, I don't know, I'm strange. Birds and frogs. Um, so, you want that, because then when there is some little bit of like chit chat or a little bit of small talk, you want to be able to try to make some kind of connection. Maybe say something about the chessboard. Like, that is a really cool chess set. It's glass, it's got dragons and bones. It's all like Game of Thrones looking. And then, because when you do your follow-up, which we're gonna talk about in just a minute, but when you do your follow-up, you're gonna make that comment again. And that way it reminds them of who you are and puts you at the top of their list. So be very observant of your surroundings and see if you can ask some questions. Now, the interview, if you are interviewing with a very seasoned interviewer, somebody who's done this a while, okay, bye, Tommy. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you are, interviewing with somebody that's been doing this for a while, the interview really should be a back and forth. It should be you're asking questions, they're asking questions, you're answering, they're answering. If they're just like firing questions at you and all you're doing is answering, it becomes more like an interrogation than it really does like an interview. And that's super uncomfortable. You don't really feel at all for what it's like to work here. You're just being interrogated. They're just trying to get through their list as fast as possible. So if you have a good back and forth communication with the person interviewing you, that's a very, very good sign. But that means that you have to be prepared with questions. So don't save all of your questions for when they say, do you have any questions for us? Again, you might have to if they're just firing stuff at you, but you should be prepared with some back and forth dialogue communication. All right, so the last question that they should typically ask you is, do you have any questions for us? Now, this is key. If you say no, you've just shot yourself in the foot. And almost every hiring manager, recruiter, president, CEO, whatever, they said they're not even going to consider you. That just shows that you're not that interested, that you didn't put forth any effort, and you could be so interested. But if you don't have any questions, then it's just given the wrong impression. It's the same thing as like sitting like this. Even if you're not feeling any which way about it, but the message that you're sending is very much what they're hearing. All right, so some great, do you have any questions for us questions? Ask industry specific questions. Don't just ask questions for the sake of asking them. They should be questions that are going to help you decide whether you want to work there or not, because they're not only interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So you could ask stuff like, well, what do you like about working here? What prompted you to come to this company? What obstacles do you see young professionals who are just entering this industry, face? And do you have any advice for me on how I could successfully overcome it? Or if you were sitting in my shoes, what advice would you give me, or what advice would you like for someone to have given you, when you were starting out? So these are some really great questions. What is the workplace culture like? Find out stuff like that, because you want to be able to make an informed decision if they do offer you the job. Now, I would not ask about salary. I would absolutely not ask about salary. Let them be the ones to bring up salary first. And if they do, again, be prepared. You want to have a range. You don't want to be like, I want to make 60,000. What is the range for this job? What in your entry level? So be realistic. Yeah, some of you are going to graduate and come out making six figures. That's awesome, phenomenal. But for the most part, no. You got to work up to that because you just don't have the experience yet, right? So, but what is an entry level salary for that position? Consider that and have a nice range. And so you say, well, this is the range I'm looking at. But you can always sidestep that. And I actually do a whole salary negotiation in my career coaching. So if you're interested in that, you guys can pop into that, and that'll happen in the fall. But if they don't bring up salary, you don't bring up salary. All right. And same with like perks or benefits or something like that. If they go down that road with you, then they're interested. And that's actually a good sign. But I wouldn't be the first to bring it up. So that's my suggestion. You can if you want to, if you feel super confident. I personally would recommend against it. Okay. All right. So, you have any questions for us? You ask your questions, you engage back and forth. And then the last question you should ask. Now, there's two ways to go about this. If you are feeling like super confident and this feels comfortable for you, you could say, well, based on our conversation here today, how do you see me fitting into your organization? That's kind of bold, because you're kind of assuming that you're going to get the job, which is good. You don't want to act as if, so that's bold. And if they say anything like less than positive, then they're not really, quite sold on you just yet. So that one, again, I would use that one with caution. If you feel comfortable, knock yourself out. But the last question you should truly ask is, when do you think you'll be making a decision? And listen very carefully. They'll say something like, oh, well, you were our last interview. The team is getting together tomorrow. We're making a decision by the end of the week. Or we just started interviews. We have 2 weeks worth of interviews. And then we're deciding that. Doesn't matter. Whatever they say, make sure you pay attention. And you say, awesome. May I follow up with you then? And they're going to 100% of the time be like, yeah, absolutely. And if they said, oh, no, we'll call you, they're probably not sold. That's probably like it's not you, it's me, breakup kind of thing. But ask them, when are they making a decision? Listen carefully, and then say, may I follow up with you then? And of course, they're going to say yes. And then you shake hands, you make eye contact, and always, always, always thank them for their time. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Thank you for this opportunity to learn more about the position and the company, but just be grateful. Just, thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll talk to you on Friday or in 2 weeks, whenever they said they were going to follow up, right? Make sure you get their contact information. Like on my desk, my business cards are sitting right on my desk. Hey, may I take one of your cards? If they're not out, say, do you have a card? But hopefully if you guys were in communication to set up this interview, you have their information anyway. But it's always nice. Again, that shows engagement. Whenever somebody wants to take my card, I'm like, hey, they like me, so it makes me feel good. So ask for their card, take it. All right. Then you go home. Remember, the interview is still going on. So you don't go outside their door and start doing, the Chandler Bing dance or anything like that. You want to just keep it professional, get out to your car and leave. All right. Don't throw up in the parking lot. I did that one time. I was just so nervous. I still got the job, but yeah, I threw up in the parking lot. Get out of the parking lot, go home. Before the end of the business day, so before 5 o'clock, you want to shoot that person an email. And this is super short and sweet, but this is something that people do not do. And if you do this, you really do set yourself up above all of your competition. Again, all of the recruiters and hiring managers that I speak to will talk about the follow-up. They'll say they talked to 20 people and only one person followed up, and that was the one they hired, regardless of what happened in the interview, because this person did that one thing. Same at career fairs or networking events. When you're meeting people, make sure you go home and you send them an email. And so it might just look like this, dear Megan, like if you interviewed with me and I was like, no, call me Megan, that's perfectly fine. Right. So dear Megan, I just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to learn more about the position of the company. I feel like, and then reiterate some of your strengths. Remember okay, bye Zion. But remember my example, like interpersonal skills, communication, maybe presentation skills, right? So I would reiterate that, like, thank you again for the opportunity to talk with you and learn more about this position. I really feel that my enhanced interpersonal skills, communication skills, and presentation skills are exactly what that position, is going to thrive for, or what your company needs. Or I feel like I would be a great asset to your team with my enhanced interpersonal skills and communication skills, whatever, right? And hey, I'm gonna brush up on my chess skills, because I made that connection from the chess set that's in my office. Or and hey, I saw a couple birds on the drive home, so make sure you keep your eyes safe, whatever, because that's my fear. They're gonna pick my eyes out. And no, I never watched the movie The Birds. I don't know where it comes from, but these birds, they have like talons of terror. I just see their feet and their beaks, and I just get all weirded out. So yeah, so whatever connection you made in the office, say that again, because then when I'm reading this email, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that was Jackson. Oh yeah, that was a cool conversation with that kid, and it's gonna remind me. Right. Super sweet, and then you say, and I look forward to hearing from you, or I look forward to, I'll talk to you next Friday or in 2 weeks, whatever. All right, that's done. And then whatever they said that they were going to make a decision. So what if they said it was Friday? Make sure that you follow up on that Friday. Now, if they just say 2 weeks, kind of like it's real kind of generic, I usually wouldn't recommend following up on a Monday or a Friday. Monday, they're coming in off a weekend brain. Their inboxes are totally full. Who knows what happened on the weekend? Maybe the kids were, a terror. Maybe they had too much fun or too much sun, whatever. Monday, people don't like Mondays. And Friday, a lot of times people already checked out, right? There's a lot of times people take off anyway, but they're on weekend brain because it's Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I say the sweet spot is like 9 a.m. People get in around 8. They've checked their email, they booted up their computer, they've done their water cooler chat, they've got their coffee, they've did whatever they needed to do. They've, like for me, I come in and I bring my lunch. So I put that in the refrigerator, I get ice in my cup that I carry everywhere with me and fill that with water. And so 9 o'clock, I sit down, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of ready to work, right? And then boom, the top of my inbox, I already cleared out the, my emails or anything like that. And there, bing, is this email from Jackson following up, because that's when we said he was going to follow up, or a phone call. I know that's wild, but pick up the phone and call somebody, and just again, hey, this is Megan Morrow. I interviewed with you on such and such date for such and such position, and I was just following up as per our conversation that we had. It goes so far. Now, that could be a great comment. They say, oh, yes, I was just going to call you. I'd like to offer you the position. Or, oh, I was going to send you an email. We're going to go with another candidate. It's okay. Whatever it is they say. Or, what, thank you so much for the call. Actually, we haven't quite met yet, but I'm getting with my team later today. Awesome. Great. I'll follow up with you in a couple days, but make sure that you follow up. Now, you don't want to be annoying, if they say 2 weeks and you call the next day, you're not listening. And that's a bad taste in their mouth, like, and I told you it was going to be 2 more weeks. Why are you calling me in 2 days? So be careful. And if you call or if you email and they don't respond, give it a couple days and then try again. Then I would say maybe give it a week. And after that, if you haven't heard anything, you can pretty much go ahead and move on. The waiting part is the worst part. Because you're just like, just tell me, good or bad, just tell me, So, so sometimes you might have to do that, or they're just trying to like ghost you. If they do, it's not professional, but it does happen. But let's say that they do offer you the job. This is awesome. This is phenomenal, right? You interview, this is what you want. Now, don't jump right away and be like, yes, I'll take it. I'll take it. You need to know what all is in that offer. And especially if you've been interviewing with multiple companies, maybe you have multiple offers, and that is perfectly okay to tell them that. They told you that they were interviewing multiple candidates. Why can't you tell them that you're also interviewing multiple companies, right? It kind of creates scarcity. It shows that you are a commodity, that people want you. And so they may up their game, and that gives you a little bit of leverage. So don't be afraid to be like, thank you so much. Absolutely. I've got a couple more interviews, and then I will be making a decision in a little while, or, let's talk about what is in the offer. So when you think about the offer, you have to consider everything, not just the salary, but is the workplace culture what you want? Do you want to wear a suit and tie and heels and, carry your briefcase and go into an office and be there 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? Do you want more of a hybrid schedule? Do you want something that's a little bit more laid back? This is why I like doing those campus to career tours, which you guys can all go on whenever we put those out. It's not just for the School of Business students. It is open to everybody. But I take them to different places like Auto Owners, Summit, CLA, we're going to England. And then you get to see what it's like to work in these different places. So like CLA has just a brand new space that they renovated. They have treadmills, and they have like walking workstations. And so you don't have like your own laptop, you just log in to whatever station. So you could, if you're, into fitness, you could be literally walking on the treadmill and working. They have like a meditation room. If you've got a break and you just kind of need to unwind, you can go into this other room and do some putt-putt and listen to some, music, like massage music, and just chill out for a second. Jabil, they have a fitness center, as part of, you get to work there. You don't have to have a gym membership. If you want to work out before or after work or on your lunch break, that works better for guys, because us girls, hair, makeup, all the things, it takes us forever to get ready. Yeah, especially like today, did so much work on my hair. It's my summer due. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so what are the perks? Are you going to travel? Are you going to be required to travel? Like for me, I have children. I can't travel, so that would be a deal breaker. I would need to know that would be part of the job offer. Is there 401k? Are there any type of ancillary benefits what do they contribute? Is there advancement opportunities? Is there going to be a commute? You guys are young, you might not think about it, but like, let's say Lakeland to Tampa, with I-4 being the parking lot that it is, even though it's only 35 miles, that could easily take you an hour and a half. And I don't know about you guys, but orange is not my color. And that traffic makes me very not nice to other people. So I can't do it. And the same with Orlando. Like that, you need like a passport to go to Orlando. It's a whole nother country with just all the tourists and the attractions and the traffic and the construction. No, thank you. So keep all that in mind. Are you going to relocate, or are you wanting to stay? Again, do you have the opportunity to work online? Do they have flexible hours? If you're going to have children, you need to be able to like, hey, I got to go pick my kid up, from school, or they're sick, or they have some little function that you need to go be a part of, So consider everything in the offer, weigh out your options, and then choose whatever really speaks to you the most. And everything in the offer is negotiable, everything. If they try to say like that, oh, this is what we pay and this is what we do, unless it's like a government job, like a school or, some type of government position, they might have a pay scale thing. But if it's a private company, there's always negotiation. And then you just make your best choice. All right. So that's kind of like the interview process, all, kind of as fast as I could get through it. There typically will be more than one interview. Since COVID had changed a lot of things, a lot of times you might have a Zoom interview first. That I never did any of the Zoom things before COVID. But you might have a Zoom interview first, and then they might bring you in person, and then they might bring you back, like, because they're weeding out their candidates. I just try to study that, like, I think that like for one position, like upwards like 250 people will apply. And maybe like 10 will get interviewed, and then one will get the offer, right? So you've got a lot of competition out there. We've got, what we're working on the ATS as far as our resumes and cover letters goes, to make sure that we can beat those systems and actually get in front of human eyes and everything like that. So once you've secured the interview, that part's all on you at that point. You've got some technical stuff, some little hoops to jump through to get to the interview. But once you have the interview, you gotta wow them with your preparation, with your research, with your confidence, with your professional demeanor, your body language, your eye contact, your firm handshake. Like, yeah, don't hug your interviewer. That was weird. I would be like, security, do not come across the table and hug your interviewer. Or if, again, during COVID, everybody started doing this weird elbow bump thing. I was like, that just feels so weird, but we're kind of past all that. But just follow your interviewer's lead. If they don't stand up and, extend a hand over, that's a little strange. You should still attempt to shake their hand. But if they're not going to give you their hand, just be like, okay, try to follow their lead. But those are the main kind of do's and don'ts about in an interview. And the number one thing, again, I just want to stress is the follow-up. If you don't follow up, you really are leaving the job on the table for somebody else. All right. How do we feel? Do's and don'ts of interviews.
Pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All right. I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, once this video, yes, Jackson.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that would be like besides everything we've talked about, that would be different or unique for, say, a government job?
So yeah, what I would do if you are applying for a government job, of course you want to do like your research for that particular division or department, but you could also Google like what are industry specific interview questions that might be asked. I'm actually looking into a new platform for us to practice mock interviews on. And it's really cool. Like if you wanted to do a mock interview, you can actually select the industry. So they will ask you specific questions to help you prepare. Because if they're like for like say an elementary school teacher versus an electrical engineer versus an accountant, right? Those are all going to be different questions. But that's what I would do is just, Google what do government employees, what are their interview questions?
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. And also too, I love you got some old school video games in the background there. That's super cool.
Yes. It's actually it's really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Pac-Man, it's like you play and you're like, wow, it's like this is awesome. And it's like, wow.
Is this your dorm or your
it's like your parents are old, but you're like they're cool.
Oh,
but they're not.
But I would recommend if you're going to do a virtual interview that you blur your background or be in a different room because you don't want to have that in the background.
It's distracting and yeah.
It's cool, but it's definitely don't want that for background.
Gotcha.
All right, guys. So lastly too, if you are going to do a Zoom, Zoom interview, be very aware too of your body language or eye contact, because they're going to be looking at that, if you're, kind of like spacing off, or if you've got another window open and because you can tell when people are looking at something else, or they're doing something on their phone. And I think I showed you guys this one time. I was interviewing and I was taking notes. So I had my notebook, but I didn't say anything. And all I was doing was this, and then I realized I'm like, they probably have no idea what I'm doing. So then I just really dramatically was like, yeah. And I picked up my notebook and I flipped the page and then I got my pen. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like very confident. I'm taking notes. I promise. I'm not like playing on my phone or, distracted, but in a Zoom, you have to go out of your way to nod and smile more than you think that you should, and stare at the camera as much as you can. And really, because, your tone and inflection and your body language gets lost in these virtual settings. But again, if you're nodding and kind of leaning forward and looking at the camera part, taking your notes, try not to be distracted, you should still be very professional. You can have your gym shorts on, sure, but your top needs to be a suit and tie or a blouse. Like I've got like my blouse on now, and if I was doing this as an interview, I would have my jacket on. I've got my nice blazer behind me, but it's freezing in my office, so I have my sport jacket on. But your bottom half doesn't have to be professional, but make sure that you are every bit dressed to impress, even over Zoom. And then the other thing too I'll say about Zoom is if you have pets, cats are going to jump up onto the screen. It's like they are like a magnet, or if you have a dog, they're going to bark, so make sure. Here we go. Liam was like, case in point. My dogs are herders, and so like they herd me and they have to be where I am. But if I'm having so when I would have virtual interviews, I would actually go next door to my neighbor. And I'm like, because the dogs will inevitably bark or, something will happen because one dog will start barking. The other one's like, what are we barking at? What are we barking at? But they bark so loud and they're big, ferocious, it's just terrible. make sure that you don't have any of those distractions. Always have water, because your mouth will get dry, you'll get a little nervous. And like I said earlier, you can use your water to like buy you a couple seconds, you know, you're taking a sip or something, it helps buy you some time. But always have something by you. All right. That's all of my wisdom, guys. I've poured it all into you, and now you have it and you can use it at your disposal. And I wish you the best in your presidential ambassador endeavors. Please let me know if you need anything, if I can help you in any way as you continue your journey at Florida Southern. If you are in the School of Business, I am your career person. If you are in any of the other majors, you have MC Mendoza and Megan McCoy as well. So, and Takara Graham is our internship person. So, all right, if you don't have any questions, guys, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over these past couple weeks.
Thank you so
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, guys.
Thank you so
Best of
much.
luck. And I'll see you around campus.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have
Bye.
a good one.
You're welcome. Bye.